Welcome to Biz Filing's Expert Insights.
Hi, I'm Greg Corombos. Our guest this week on Expert Insights is Phyllis Reagin. Phyllis is the former head of global diversity and inclusion for Warner Brothers and has provided leadership advice for many American corporations. Today, we want to get her insights on whether the extended telework sparked by this pandemic is going to become a permanent fixture for many companies. And if it is, how should business owners facilitate this change to keep employees as connected and productive as possible? And Phyllis, thanks so much for being with us.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, first of all, what are you hearing from business leaders? Is large-scale telework going to end whenever this pandemic ends, or are many of them planning to keep a lot of their personnel at home because it's working well?
Well, I'm hearing it roll out slowly with the idea of keeping workers working from home. So I'd say probably about 25% of the businesses I actually work with are saying that moving forward, from now on, their employees will have a choice. And some of them are even saying they would prefer that they work from home. They really don't find that there's any difference in their productivity or efficiency with where they are located. So they're open to the idea of their employees working from home. And then the rest of the businesses are taking a let's wait and see attitude. So they're giving their employees a timestamp that you can work at home until the beginning of 2021 or even mid-2021, and then they'll evaluate it at that point.
You brought up a very important point that I hadn't heard before, and it's certainly true based on my own personal experience, but I hadn't seen it discussed on any larger level, and that's that people feel as or more productive at home. Are you hearing that across the board?
I hear it both ways. I hear some people say, I am far more productive at home in my own space, not having to be distracted by other people or unexpected events around me. I can really zone into my work. And then I hear others say, no, I feel much more connected when I'm around other people. I find that I get to my best ideas, that I'm able to really, connect the ideas of what my team is working on with what's happening in the business in general when I'm in the workspace. So I really do think it's the individual that has to come to the decision of what works best for them moving forward.
Is there a way to simulate the connectedness you get by being in the same physical office space when working remotely? What are the best practices on that?
There are ways. I do find that most of my clients find it extremely challenging to connect in a way that it's virtual and you don't have those kind of informal checkpoints. You're not in front of someone and you lose this ability to read people. So you're trying to read faces and gestures and all these nuances that we probably don't even notice that are particularly important for us to make decisions about what's happening. And so they're losing that kind of feedback. But now they're stepping into the idea that they're just going to have to adapt, and they're finding strategies that are helpful for them to kind of keep that fluidity with their team happening. And that means really like a lot of informal meetings, ability to have office hours so that your team can show up when they want to, when they need it. And really also about having everybody really tune into having structure around their day.
Talk about that a little more, because while a lot of folks I've talked to do feel more productive, you also feel like you're constantly on the clock. And if you have family responsibilities or other things going on, that can stress you out because you obviously feel like you're constantly on call. So what are the parameters that good business owners are putting in place on that so people don't feel like they have to be on the clock 24/7?
Yes, and I'm hearing a lot of this. So employees are really stretched then. At first, when they went home, it was exciting, right? You had this ability, you thought in your head to control your schedule in a new way. But what's happening is without commute times, without really any kind of structure in your morning, people are waking up and immediately going to their laptop, and they're in meetings from one moment to the next, back to back. And then they're finding, well, they don't really have a parameter about stopping. So they continue on through the evening. Maybe they have dinner with their family, put their children to bed, and then they're back in front of their laptop again. So this is producing a lot of stress for my clients. And what I ask the business leaders of these stressed out employees is that it's their responsibility to now set up a new structure, to have new guidelines that really tell your employees We don't have back-to-back meetings. You have to have a buffer of 15 minutes. You do not work from 6 a.m. into 10 p.m., and you're not on Slack in between those times. So they really need to have rules now about how to work at home.
Another important factor here, Phyllis, that I'm sure you're also hearing is that in addition to teleworking, a lot of folks are still going to have their kids at home doing distance learning for school, depending on where you are in the country. Some are, some aren't. But so for those who do have their kids at home, employees are going to have to do their own work and keep an eye on what their kids are doing with respect to school in the next room. So what advice do you have for business owners who obviously want to be understanding in this situation, but also need to get the work done?
Absolutely. A troubling time for a lot of parents at home. They're feeling very stressed out. They don't know how they're going to manage it all. And so it's really important for business leaders to just say, we are going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be rocky. We're not going to have all the answers. Productivity might wax and wane. And we really have to be okay with it because this is just the state of it. And we can't put such a demand and such a high level expectation on our employees that they can manage this in a way that keeps their productivity maybe at the same level as it was prior. But we are going to be open with them and saying, we're here. We want to let you know we care. We're going to provide you with this many resources to help you parent during this time, even if it's a wellness resource from the company or just a leader checking in saying, what else do you need at this point that will be helpful to you?
We're talking with Phyllis Reagin, and Phyllis is the former head of global diversity and inclusion for Warner Brothers. She consults with many different companies and corporations around the country. And Phyllis, I'm sure as you've talked to different business owners over the past several months here, you've heard some ideas about telework that have probably seemed like a stroke of genius, and others where you're literally cringing up your face. What are some of the ideas that you've heard where you're thinking, oh, that's brilliant, I need to tell other people about that, and at the same time, that's a horrible idea, I got to make sure nobody else does this?
I'm hearing a lot of brilliance, thankfully. So I'm hearing team leaders saying, okay, so this is the time now we need to talk about team norms. Whether we've had them or not, we need to develop those that make sense right now in this time. And then let's get together as a team and create our values. So who are we right now in this moment? And really what's connecting us to our work and to each other? So I think it's brilliant to go back and really create this with your team where it's meaningful to them, keeps them engaged, and they really know, why are they doing what they're doing and how does it connect to them? A lot of the leaders are really zooming in on the meaning of the work, the why of the work. Because at this time in the pandemic, many people are saying, why am I doing what I'm doing? It doesn't matter in the big scheme of things beyond the financial side of it. And so it's important for business leaders to say, hey, here is the why of our company, and here is the why of our company right now in this pandemic, and this is why your work matters, and this is why you matter. So I see business leaders really doing this well. What I don't see that's brilliant is leaders that are just doing business as is because they're uncomfortable with this personal touch that's needed. This level of empathy and compassion and transparency can be difficult for people. And that's what's required in this moment right now to lead well.
So being antsy to get back to what used to be normal is probably not the most helpful way to go about this. Just in our last couple of minutes here, Phyllis, I don't know how much you've had in terms of conversations about this, but what do business owners need to know about legal matters or compliance issues when setting up people at home for the long term? I'm specifically thinking maybe of liability issues. I know it's mostly office work, and so injuries are unlikely, but things still happen. So what do business owners need to keep in mind on that front?
It's all new terrain for them, and I really counsel them to go get experts, right? There are people that really understand about the compliance issue, the insurance side of it, and there are actually people out there that know how to help you set up your employees in home environments so that they're healthy, that they can feel connected, that they have everything they need to do the work well. So I really encourage them to either have contact with people like that can help them build this out, or actually develop a department now that we're moving into this new world where this is their focus.
Lastly, Phyllis, what other advice do you have for business owners who are either contemplating or moving ahead with more telework for their employees?
I have advice that the leader needs to take care of themselves as well. It's that old analogy that if you're on an airplane and the oxygen masks drop, you need to put yours on first before you put it on your loved ones that are next to you. You can't help them if you aren't breathing correctly. So it's the same idea for leaders right now. They need to take care of their physical, cognitive, and emotional well-being. And that means checking in with themselves and seeing if they're feeling stress and looking at what they need actually to be at their optimum level right now during this pandemic.
Phyllis, excellent advice, and all good advice is welcome right now for folks trying to figure out what the new normal is going to look like, at least for the foreseeable future. Thank you very much for your time today. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Phyllis Reagin is the former head of global diversity and inclusion for Warner Brothers, and she's also provided leadership advice for many different companies and corporations. I'm Greg Corombos, and for more information on this topic, please visit bizfilings.com.
Biz Filings, a Wolters Kluwer company, has been incorporating businesses since 1996.